The story you're about to hear isn't just about wartime survival. It's about a quiet agricultural revolution that unfolded under pressure, scarcity, and urgency. During World War II, entire nations were cut off from fertilizers, imports, and mechanized farming inputs. Yet somehow, yields didn't just hold steady in many places. They surged. Ordinary people, not industrial agribusiness, unlocked soil techniques that restored fertility, stretched harvests, and kept populations alive under rationing. And here's the part that should raise eyebrows. Many of those methods were quietly sidelined in the decades that followed, replaced by chemical-heavy systems that made farmers dependent rather than resilient. What worked so well back then wasn't flashy, and it wasn't profitable for large-scale input suppliers, but it was effective. Today, as soil degradation and food insecurity resurface globally, those forgotten wartime techniques are worth revisiting, not as nostalgia, but as practical tools you can still apply. How wartime scarcity forced farmers to rebuild soil from scratch. When synthetic fertilizers became scarce during the war, farmers had no choice but to treat soil as a living system rather than an inert medium. Composting became the backbone of food production, not as a side practice, but as a primary fertility strategy. Households and farms saved every scrap of organic waste, vegetable peels, ashes, manure, even paper, and turned it into rich humus. The key difference from modern composting trends was scale and discipline. Materials were layered carefully to balance carbon and nitrogen. Moisture was monitored, and turning schedules were consistent. You can apply this today by building a compost system that mimics those conditions. Combine dry materials like leaves or shredded cardboard with kitchen scraps and manure if available. Keep the pile damp but not soaked, and turn it every 1 to 2 weeks. Within a few months, you'll have a dense, dark compost that improves soil structure and nutrient retention far more sustainably than synthetic inputs. Why deep digging and trench systems unlocked hidden fertility? One of the most effective wartime practices was double digging or trench composting. Farmers dug trenches about a foot deep, filled them with organic waste, and covered them with soil. This method didn't just dispose of waste. It created nutrient-dense root zones where crops could thrive even in poor soils. This technique works particularly well for crops like cabbages, potatoes, and leafy greens. You dig a trench in your garden bed, fill it with compostable material, and then cover it back with soil. After that, you just plant directly above it. As the organic matter breaks down, it feeds the roots, steadily reduces the need for external fertilizers, and, well, it improves moisture retention during those dry periods. How crop rotation became a survival strategy, not just a theory. Crop rotation wasn't optional during World War II, it was essential. Farmers rotated legumes, root crops, and leafy vegetables to naturally replenish nutrients and break pest cycles. Legumes like beans and peas were especially valuable because they fixed nitrogen in the soil, reducing the need for fertilizers. You can replicate this by dividing your garden into sections and rotating crop families each season. Follow nitrogen-depleting crops like maize with nitrogen-fixing ones like beans. Then plant heavy feeders like kale or spinach in that enriched soil. This simple cycle keeps your soil productive without chemical intervention. You know, mulch really became the silent protector of wartime harvests. Mulching played a critical role in conserving water and protecting the soil. With limited irrigation and unpredictable weather, folks would cover the soil with straw, leaves, or even grass clippings to help retain moisture, suppress weeds, and regulate temperature. These days, mulching is still honestly one of the easiest ways to boost your yields. After planting, just cover the soil around your crops with some organic material. This simple step reduces evaporation, keeps roots cool, and as it breaks down, gradually adds nutrients. In hot climates or during dry seasons, this alone can, well, double your output. So, let's talk about how bio-intensive spacing maximized every inch of land. Wartime gardens, often called victory gardens, had to produce as much food as possible in limited spaces. Farmers and civilians alike adopted close spacing techniques, planting crops tightly together to create a living canopy. This helped reduce weeds and made the most of the available sunlight. You know, you can use this method by planting crops closer than conventional spacing guides suggest, especially when it comes to leafy greens and herbs. The key, really, is to maintain soil fertility through composting, so that plants don't compete excessively. This approach works well in small gardens or urban settings where space is, well, a bit limited. So, how did cold frame techniques extend growing seasons through winter? Well, one of the lesser-known breakthroughs of World War II agriculture was the widespread use of cold frames to grow food during winter. These simple structures, essentially low boxes with transparent covers, captured sunlight and retained heat, allowing farmers to grow greens even in freezing conditions. A basic cold frame can be built using wood and a glass or plastic cover. You just place it over a garden bed facing the sun. During the day, it traps heat, and at night, it protects plants from frost. Crops like spinach, lettuce and kale really thrive in these conditions. For example, you can plant spinach in late autumn, cover it with a cold frame, and harvest fresh leaves in January. It's important to vent the frame slightly during warmer days to prevent overheating, and close it at night to retain warmth. Honestly, this technique alone can transform your garden into a year-round food source. Why did these methods fade away? And well, why do they matter so much now? After the war, industrial agriculture really took over, bringing synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and all sorts of mechanization right to the forefront. These innovations, sure, they increase short-term yields, but often at the cost of long-term soil health. The labor-intensive, knowledge-driven practices from the Second World War were gradually abandoned, mainly because they just didn't fit with the big commercial models that were taking off. But, you know, the trade-off is now perfectly clear. Soils that are depleted by chemicals need constant inputs, while those built up with organic methods just get more fertile as time goes on. The wartime approach wasn't only about getting by, it was really about resilience and independence. So, how do you start applying these soil secrets right away? Well, start small, but stick with it. Build yourself a compost system and make a habit of feeding your soil regularly. Try trench planting in just one section of your garden and see what happens. Rotate your crops each season and use mulch to keep your soil protected. If you can, give a cold frame a go, to stretch your growing season a bit further. These aren't just theoretical ideas. They're proven methods that kept millions going through one of the toughest times in modern history. They work because they go with natural processes, not against them. The real takeaway here is this: the most powerful farming techniques don't come out of factories. They come from understanding the soil itself. If you find this kind of deep dive into forgotten history and practical survival knowledge interesting, do consider subscribing and sharing this with others who care about real food security and self-reliance.